As a young professional, after a couple of years in your job, you're hopefully in the position to earn a decent salary. And of course, in order to be able to finance your investments, usually saving your income, saving a significant portion of your income is the most important thing, the biggest lever that you have to make that work. In today's video, I'm going to show you the shockingly simple math, how your savings rate is directly related to your long-term financial health. I'm going to talk about the top tips that I implemented in my life to keep my savings rate at 50% over the last years, and I'm going to show you why this also means that you do not need to live a frugal and minimalistic life to make all this work. You can still spend lots of money on all your pleasures, so no worries about that. I'm going to exactly show you how to make that work. So welcome to another coffee break here on my channel. My name is Heinrich, and here on Firm Learning I want to help you to become successful in the first years of your career. And yes, I do believe that in order for you to be successful in the long term, it's not only about you getting your career right, but you need to get your money right as well. And this is all about developing the right habits to do the right things without even thinking too much about it. So now, before we jump into today's video, I just want to take a moment to thank the sponsors of this channel. Very happy to see this list of members grow. I even added new perks since last week, so check it out. So let's check out the math behind the savings rate, why the savings rate is so important, and why the math itself is not too complicated. I did find it quite powerful the first time I saw these kinds of calculations. So here I'm using this calculator from the page networthify.com, so check that out as well if you want to play around with the numbers for yourself. And let's now put in the savings rate of 6%. So let's assume that you are able to save 6% of that. And why 6%? So here is a chart, and interestingly enough, here they now inserted already some data, what by country now typical savings rates would be. So to be fair, the data is a bit old, but let's just assume that this is indicatively right. And here the numbers are quite low, right? So for the UK, the average guy apparently saves only 2% of his income. For the US, it's 6%. For Germany 12, France 16, interestingly enough in China 28, and in India 32. So 6% would be what the typical guy in the US saves. So this would mean that every year the person saves 2,400 euro, probably dollar in this case. So this model calculates with some returns of 5% every year, which seems fair, like a long-term rate of return if you assume that the majority of the funds is invested in the stock market, and then in the end it's assumed that the withdrawal rate is 4%. So what these values now tell you is that assuming that your income remains stable in the future, and assuming that your saving rate remains stable, so you save these 2,400, and assuming that your expenses remain stable, that you will always expend exactly this amount, not more, not less, then it will take you 62 years until your income from your investments exceeds your expenses. So in 62 years, you will be in a position where in perpetuity, your income from your investments alone will exceed your expenses and you do not need to work anymore. Of course, the problem with this number is that 62 years is longer than the professional life of the normal person, so you will never reach financial independence with this saving rate. So you need to rely that you have some other type of income, some other type of rent when you're old, or you might need to then really spend all your savings if you retire, and then of course you will not be able to pass anything on to your children, which you might, or maybe also of course might not want to do anyway in the future. So let's look like how these numbers change if we insert now the typical German savings rate of 12%. If we assume that people save 12%, then this number is already decreasing to 47.5 years. So this now is the number which more or less corresponds to the average professional life of a person. But this of course means that then you will only be able to reach financial independence as per the definition that I just gave you once you retire. What happens now though if you're actually able to save 50% of your net income? This would then leave you with with 20,000 euros in savings every year and also 20,000 euros in expenses. Now, of course, 20,000 euros in expenses is not a huge amount, but this is for sure significantly more to spend than I had when I was a student. And frankly, I had a pretty good life when I was a student, right? What you see here is that if you're indeed able to save 50% of your income, then you're able to reach financial independence, or you're able to retire if you want to read this based on the definition that your investment returns cover all your living expenses in only 16 years. And this might enable you, if this is what you want to do after all, to potentially retire in your late 30s if you started working early enough. Now, all of this is of course not to say that I would recommend you to start working in your early 30s or anything like that. And for sure I know for myself that even if I had the money, I would probably continue working. But it's fair to assume as well that most people probably would be much more selective in the type of work they accept. They would think much more about what they actually wanted to do, what their passion really would be. If you would know that actually you do not really need to work anymore, but it's rather because you really want to. And this, at least for me, was always motivation enough to keep my savings rate high. I started doing that pretty much since the very beginning once I started working in Germany. And indeed, I was able to keep my savings rate at 50% pretty consistently over the last years. And I do think that there are a couple of key lifestyle decisions that I made for myself that really enabled me to do that. First of all, neither me nor my wife has a car. During my professional life, I lived in Berlin, in Munich, in a small city in the west of Germany, and in none of these places I owned a car since I started working. I would have had the opportunity to get a company car, and a quite nice one, frankly. But in Germany, you need to pay income tax on that because cars are considered as an income equivalent if you get company cars from your employer. This would have meant an expense of several hundred euro every month, so I declined the car, did not take the company car to avoid the taxes that I would have needed to pay. Instead, I love taking my bicycle. If I need to go somewhere, I usually take public transport, and when I really need a car for a day trip or so, I usually just pick one up in the city for car sharing, which I find a highly comfortable and super cost-effective solution as well. Now, I do believe that depending on your life situation, where you live, and also what your responsibilities are, sometimes you just need a car, and I fully understand that, and maybe also in the future I might be in a position where I will get myself a car, but over the last 10 years at least, for me, I didn't see the necessity so far. Next are the housing expenses, and here what I saw many people do whom I started working with, and also some other friends of mine who are privileged enough to earn decent salaries. I saw these people now moving into larger flats, moving into really great and comfortable places because they could afford it. This is not what my wife and I decided to do. We decided to rather choose a bit of a smaller one. So for sure we already feel super privileged to live in our current flat, and we do not really feel restricted by it at all. But still, our housing expenses relative to our income are probably significantly less than many of my peers, and this is of course a huge factor for your savings rate as well. Next is just your overall general consumer spending behavior. And again, I have many friends where sometimes I have the impression they are just bored and they sit on their sofa, they take their laptop and just browse Amazon and just buy stuff because they are bored. And this is something that I really try to avoid. So whenever there's something that I really crave, I then think about it for quite some time, and if then I still really want it, then yes, I will get it, but I will not just browse the internet randomly looking for stuff that maybe I could be interested in. Next, and closely related to that, is the tech equipment that many people buy and upgrade all the time. I know many people who constantly upgrade their phones, their Apple Watches, their laptops and so on. My phone is several years old and it works perfectly fine. I use an iMac which I bought in 2013. It's still doing a wonderful job. So I don't try to always get the newest stuff all the time, and this for sure saves me a lot of money as well. And indeed, I do not think that all these things really make you happy. And there's also a concept for that called hedonic adaptation. What does hedonic adaptation mean? Well, if you get yourself a nice and new car, if you get yourself a nice new laptop or some other great things, then for a certain amount of time you will feel a rush of endorphins. You will be very happy. This will bring you joy for some time. But the truth is, you will not stay at this level of joy and happiness in the long term. Over after a certain amount of time, usually only days, sometimes even only hours, your happiness level will then start to decrease again. And indeed, in the long term, it will always come down to some kind of average level of happiness that you have in your life, which just constitutes the baseline for you. And if you condition yourself to think this way, then the only thing that can really bring you up again is the newer, larger cars, the newer, nicer flat. But the problem is it never ends. It doesn't matter what you own. You will always in the end come down to this level. So these kind of things, while I know and while I understand that these are great, and of course I'm guilty of all these pleasures as well, these do not really bring you sustainable happiness in the long term. And for me, once I understood this really clicked. This somehow made sense to me. And while again, I do not want to claim at all that I'm perfect here, while I waste lots of money on useless stuff all the time as well. Though for me personally, this is also about priorities, about doing the right things in the right order. I could very much see myself in the future getting a car, in the future maybe moving into a larger flat, maybe buying myself more of this great new stuff. But I do not want to be dependent on my monthly salary to finance this lifestyle. I do not want to have the feeling that if I would lose my job, I wouldn't be able to do my car payments anymore. I wouldn't be able to pay my monthly rent anymore. I wouldn't be able to finance my lifestyle anymore. This would just make me feel so dependent on my current job or my current salary, and I do not want to do that. I'd rather now focus on investing the money, on building the financial independence, and then rather once I've hopefully reached that in the future, then think more about where I could maybe spend the money. So guys, pay the price today so you can pay any price tomorrow. And if you're now asking yourself, well Heinrich, how do I need to invest? Where do you want me to put my money in? Then of course, besides becoming a member of this channel, obviously, sign up via the join button below. Check out the other video that I did a couple of months ago on investing as a young professional. I will link it somewhere above here for you to check it out. In this video I explain my personal strategy, how I approach my investments, though of course I want to also make it clear that I'm no financial advisor, so always do your own research before putting your money somewhere. Hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions at all, please leave me a comment below in the comment section, and as you know, I will do my very best to answer every single one. And if you took any value out of this video at all, please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm and also subscribe to my channel for even more content. And you can also turn the notification bell on to receive notifications whenever I release a new video, because otherwise YouTube might not show you the videos even if you subscribe to me. If you want to see even more, also follow me on my Instagram. My handle is Firm Learning. I upload posts almost daily and also have a mailing list. You can sign up to that via the link in the video description. Again, if you want to support me and my work, please become a member of this channel via the join button, or there's also a link in the video description. This would mean the world for me, so a big thank you for everybody who just considers joining. I'm going to be back next week. I release weekly videos every Saturday, so look forward to next week, and until then, bye bye.